Hey guys, welcome back to the video. In today's video, we're going to talk about working in India versus working in the US. Now, India has a lot of American companies, like you have Amazon, you have Microsoft, you have all these really cool American subsidiaries in India. But in reality, I'm not sure about all the companies, but sometimes the work that you do in the American companies is not the same as the work that you do in Indian companies. Today, we're going to talk with Puneet Kohli. Puneet is right now, he's an engineer at Apple. Before this, he worked at Arcesium, he worked at Amazon, he worked at Leah. He even tried starting his own startup. He did his undergrad from COEP and then moved to Texas A&M in the US. He has quite a bit of experience at working in Indian companies and US companies. So back at COEP, once he graduated, he got campus placements at Arcesium, and that was in India. So he worked in India for quite a while, and then later on he worked at Amazon in Seattle, Washington. That's where Amazon's headquarters is. He worked at Amazon's headquarters doing really cool work. And today he's going to share some of his experiences of working in the US and working in India and what were the differences. And at the end, he's going to tell you an interesting story that happened to him while he was at Amazon in Seattle. So do stay tuned. It's going to be super interesting. You'll get to know a lot of insights about working in India versus working in the US. This is a very personal experience, so we are not generalizing. We're not saying that all companies are like this. This is a very personal experience, so do not misunderstand us or take up any false conclusions. Without any further ado, let's get into it.
Working in India for a US company, so our CCM is based in US. I felt, now this is not everyone's experience, but at least my experience was that, like you're kind of being treated as a second class citizen, where like all the decisions were being made in the US by someone I've never seen, never heard, no idea who that is, and like being passed to us by a series of like, managers. So it's like
Mm,
some director, some passed it to some senior manager, passed it to some manager, who passed it to the tech lead, who would pass it to, me being the other developer. And so like for me, it's just like, okay, this is what you need to do. I was like, well, if that's all I needed to do, why did you hire like me and all these other people from the top universities to do that job? Like you could have hired literally anyone.
yeah.
And that was actually when I left the company. That was my biggest complaint. It's like, you guys are paying the top salaries in India for all of us who do these jobs, but the job, like the requirements of the job, don't meet what you're paying us or what like the interview process you put people through, right? Like you
Mm,
could save 3x cost by hiring someone who doesn't have this level of caliber, because it's basically like, okay, you need to write this in this code, done, like go write it and that's it. But
wow.
in Amazon right now, I'm in Seattle. Now I'm in the headquarters, and like I'm in a team that's making decisions for their own product. So despite all the technology aspects being like 90% the same, the experience of being in such a team was very different. Like it's like, hey, okay, you want to do this? Let's have a discussion in like 5 people and decide if, like option A, option B. We'll do the pros and cons analysis, and then we'll put it through to, the product team. They'll see if it makes sense for them as well. We'll try to get a timeline estimate, and boom, it's like in the product.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you're
So, like,
not
one of
just
my
like,
friends says that
yeah.
every time, an American company opens a subsidiary in India, it's usually outsourced grunt work. And, that's what most Indian companies get.
I I I don't know if that's like a universal truth. It may not be, but let me tell you an interesting story about
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, right? So one of my friends, he was an intern at Amazon, and so he was working on a project in intern in Amazon US. So he was working on a project, and I think it was a 3-month internship. So 2 months into his internship, like his whole team got canned from that project, right? So everyone, they just got told, hey, like we're scrapping this project and we're gonna send it to India. And
Mm-hmm.
so my friend asked his manager, is like, what do I do, right? Like I am an intern, I need to make my intern project complete so that you can assess me if I can get a full-time offer or not. And so, well, the manager obviously had some solution for the internship and how to complete it, but an interesting piece of information that he shared with me that happened in that conversation was the manager said, well, this is a 5-year product, right? And so we're already 4 years into development of this product. And so there's only 1 year of development left. And so we're going to give that to India. So they can do the last 1 year of development, and they can go through that whole process of deciding, how to do it. And what I said, right? What was exciting for me about being in the US.
Hmm.
And they can do 1 year of that, but then they'll do 10 years of maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that was like mind blowing for me
Mm-hmm.
on, the just the way of thinking, right? Like, yeah, they'll do 1 year of development, so they'll be happy because they got to work on exciting, products, features. And I'm sure like some managers will be able to, justify their work, things like that. But then that same team is going to end up maintaining the project for
Mostly
years.
the repetitive tasks are sort of outsourced to India.
Yeah. So I thought that was like a crazy and scary and like also genius way
Yeah,
of
I think
thinking about.
from the economics perspective, it makes sense because, in Silicon Valley, the average cost of an engineer is $15,000 per month, while in India, you
Yeah.
can hire an engineer for like $1,000 a month. So, in
Yeah.
that sense, it makes sense. But yeah, it's sort of giving the menial tasks to India and then doing the good parts.
Yeah. But they didn't give them, interestingly, 1 year worth of like
Yeah,
amazing tasks, right?
psychology.
Yeah.